What's up, everybody? Welcome in the Sooners on SI post-game podcast after Oklahoma knocks off and knocks down Michigan. 24-13 is the final here in Norman, America. We're here to break it all down. I'm Ryan Chapman, per usual. We got the man, the myth, the legend, John Hoover in the house. John, welcome back. We missed you last week.
I'm so thrilled to be back in the stadium for a game. Not just any game, the Michigan game. Oklahoma, Michigan. What a tragedy that these teams don't play with any regularity. You know,
I know.
I mean, it was so good. It was so entertaining.
It was very, very good. We got our man Carson Field, who extends his streak. Oklahoma has not lost a game in this stadium when Carson is here. You're welcome, Sooners fans. It's a big-time hire by us, yeah?
Yeah, I guess so. I just must be the good luck charm. My record, though, away from this stadium, not so good. 0-2 with the bowl game, the LSU game. We'll see if that changes next week against Temple, but you're right. Big games whenever I'm at the stadium.
We might leave you home next week if that's good for business. Just first off, let me set the table for you guys. We are up here in the press box in the TV booth. It is right now 2:30 local. So when we get weird and off the edge and all that stuff, keep in mind, we've watched the game once live, and if you were following along, OklahomaSoonersOnSide.com, you saw the live blog, you saw all Carson's highlights, you saw that we were busy. But let's just start here. We talked about this a little bit on our midweek podcast, coming into this thing with all the recruits in the house, with all of the conversation all offseason about Brent Venables on the hot seat, the first OU coach since John Blake to truly enter a season on the hot seat. John, Brent Venables has had a couple of massive wins during his time at Oklahoma. He's had, obviously, the Texas win in 2023, which was almost a redemption arc, that kind of stuff. The Auburn win bouncing back from Tennessee a year ago, even though that season went really, really sideways. And then the Alabama win here on senior night a year ago. But as you look at Brent Venables, who's 3 years and 2 games in, is this the biggest win tonight of the Venables era in Norman?
I thought Alabama was big last year because it literally got them to a bowl game. They didn't win the bowl game. It was not a great bowl game, but they get to extend their streak. The Texas game, always the biggest on this school schedule, on this team schedule. So I would probably say right now, we talked about this being a must-win game. It wasn't a must-win game unless you have the fanciful idea that you're some top 5 team that can play for a national championship. If that's who Oklahoma thinks they are, then this was a must-win game. And as of now, this is now the biggest game. But I would, just in the big picture, rank it below the Texas game and probably below the Alabama game as well.
Yeah, you weren't here at the time, Carson, but I think it's easy to forget with how that season finished. Not that it finished like poorly, but they didn't make it to Arlington. You came out of that, Dylan Gabriel was a Heisman frontrunner. Oklahoma had vaulted into the top 5, basically, I think, at the time. I don't remember the exact ranking, all that stuff. This one, I think you look at the schedule ahead, a lot more can happen. They got to beat Auburn to even get to the bye week undefeated, all that stuff. But whether this is 1 or 2, Carson, this was a really freaking big win. And as we're going to talk about, the way it happened to, I think is going to make Brent Venables extra happy.
No, it's monumental, especially you look at Michigan. That's such a talented team. That defense is fantastic. And John Mateer he proved all of the doubts about, can he play against top-level competition, top-level defense. He was phenomenal. This team, just for Brent Venables' sake, it's just gigantic. For the program's sake, trying to get back to what it was when Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, when they were leading the charge, they looked like a legit top 10-ish team tonight, and a huge win for the program.
24-13, like we said, Oklahoma wins the total yardage, 408 to 288. This game was not as close as the scoreboard indicated. Basically, for Michigan, they got the 75-yard house call by Justice Haynes out of halftime, first play of the second half. Otherwise, guys, anytime you talk about Michigan moving the ball on any of the other drives, the one in the first half that Michigan moved the ball there in the second quarter was due to a roughing the kicker. It was a holding call, defensive holding call that is never called on Dominic Williams. Mm-hmm. It was a first down that was called near midfield that I'm not sure it was the right spot. I didn't get a good second look at it, but I know certainly the fans in the house were booing. Michigan misses that field goal. You look at anything else outside the house call, and you're talking about, John, some special teams miscues when it comes to an Isaiah Satania muff punt, when it comes to Jade not setting the offense way back by screwing up fielding a kickoff, and that was the one time that Michigan actually had some really nice field position other than the muff punt, that they could take a shot downfield. Other than that, John, and we're going to start with the defense because I'm a little tired, it's our fault, of the defense always getting shoved to the side because the offense is on fire, stuff like that. The defense showed out tonight, and for a lot of people last year, I remember vividly because it only happened a couple weeks ago. Dane Brugler of The Athletic rolls out his projected top 50 and the R. Mason Thomas blurb. The first thing he says was, an inconsistent defense last year. And I'm like, Dane, I appreciate that you are an NFL guy. Oklahoma's defense was good last year, but because the team sucked, maybe not everyone took note of it. Oklahoma's defense hopefully is going to get their flowers coming out of this thing, John, because Oklahoma's now 2-0, and they put on a great show.
It was kind of a perfect storm for Brent Venables in that he can put on tape a really dominant defense. You know, he can show the fans or the doubters or the media or the haters or whoever, hey, we've got a legitimate defense again. But then he can take the other side of the tape and go into the film room with his defense and say, 75-yard touchdown. Not good enough, you know what I mean? Like he's got just enough juice on the backside of that to say, you guys aren't as good as you think you are. I was sitting here looking at Justice Haynes' numbers. Holy cow, 19 carries, 125 yards. What a great game. No, hold on. 18 carries, 50 yards, right? Is that what that is? Yeah, 50 yards. 18 carries, 50 yards. That ain't too good. So they did a great job on him. They did a great job bottling up and collapsing the pocket on and making uncomfortable Bryce Underwood for the day. 9 out of 24 passing, 142 yards. Only sacked him once, but pressured him a lot and confused him. I thought that confused him not to where he was throwing the ball to the wrong people, but just to where he would break out of the pocket and think, where are my receivers? They did a great job covering. And when he would fire to receivers, he would misfire because he was like on the run or he was under pressure. They were in his face a lot. So from a Venable standpoint, you start with the defense. Holy cow. Everything went perfect except this 75-yard run. And these defensive penalties that kept alive a drive. And they should have had a field goal. And, you know, he can just go on and on. I know Brent Venables pretty well, guys. He can go on and on about the stats we're looking at and the plays that we saw today.
That's what Brent's going to go on and on about. Carson, I think the fans and us are going to go on and on about the defensive line and what they were able to do, clearing way for Owen Heineke, who leads the team in tackles, Kit Lewis, who's right there, second the team in tackles.
Yeah, no, it was just, I couldn't tell you how many times I saw Jaden Jackson, David Stone, these big guys up front just getting through with ease against a really good Michigan offensive line, a really big Michigan offensive line. I just thought it was so impressive. I really do think we're starting to see some of Brent Venables' defensive mastery, that obviously with him calling defensive plays now, kind of flexing that muscle a little bit more, using the talent, using the size that they have. I mean, in every aspect of this defense, there wasn't one lacking unit, I didn't think, today. I mean, guys like Kendall Daniels, he was really impressive tonight. 2.5 tackles for loss, 3 solo tackles. He's been great in both of his games in Crimson and Cream. He's been awesome. Owen Heineke was fantastic. Really, just top to bottom, I thought the defense was fantastic.
Brent Venables joked about Kendall Daniels on the first drive of the game. That was the one time that Michigan got one or two. They got 2 positive plays, and then things were shut down immediately. That they roll out there, they have a boot, and Brent Venables, like, Kendall Daniels was so excited he forgot, I'm supposed to sit over here. I chase it down, stuff like that.
It's the second straight game that started that way.
Yeah.
You know, with a little bit of a, oh, crap, I'm on the wrong place. There goes the guy out the house. Out the house. Out the door to the house.
Yeah. I think, though, that Kendall Daniels may have made up for that later on in the first quarter, because he basically snuffed out a little swing pass, and not only did he sniff that out, he delivered a hit that got the fans going, which the fans were awesome all day long.
Both on the same guy, on Haynes.
Yeah.
Swing pass to Haynes.
Haynes has not enjoyed his 2 trips to Norman, I got to say. He gets in a fight with Bryce Underwood on the sideline, gets a 75-yarder, has 2 L's. Not bad, though. And I thought that Kendall Daniels, we didn't even get to really see Kendall Daniels and Marlon Klein go at it because I thought that Oklahoma was in a good spot in coverage. And when Bryce Underwood did pull up to throw the ball, they were all over the place. Just hazard a guess. Do you guys happen to know, by the way, if you're looking for the PFF snap counts and grades, that stuff is already on the website, OklahomaSoonersOnUsSide.com. 2 weeks in a row, we were the first one out there. So if you ever need that stuff, it's there as soon as it's up. I put it up for you guys. Do you happen to know, just by flow of the game, the two guys who played all 59 snaps on defense? Two guys played all 59 snaps.
Cortland Guillory.
Cortland Guillory, the true freshman.
Kip Lewis?
Peyton Bowen is the other one. Those two guys, and there was no reason to pull them off the field because, guys, I thought Cortland Guillory was fantastic. And it may not have always been that he was making a play on the ball. He may not have always gotten officially credited with the pass breakup, but he was physical. He was all over the place. There were a couple of times I turned to Hoover up in the press box. I'm like, there's Cortland. There's that man again, that true freshman. I thought Peyton Bowen did a really good job. And outside of, I think both safeties kind of took some bad angles on that 75-yard touchdown run. There's going to be a lot of blame to go around. I thought the back end, the secondary, sure tackling. There weren't many times that I was sitting there going, missed tackle on the back end, things like that. It was a really, really strong showing. Now, Gentry Williams did not finish the game. Devon Jordan came in, but Michigan wasn't able to throw at him because he wasn't like immediately this big weakness. So we got no update on Gentry after the game. That's the new thing this year.
They chose not to throw it at Devon Jordan. Good news, bad news. Gentry Williams got hurt again. That's the bad news. The good news is it's not his shoulder. So, take what you can get.
If we want to go to reckless speculation corner, I watched a lot of Gentry Williams on the sideline. He came out of the medical tent. They didn't really give him his helmet. The trainers were having him go up and down the sideline, and every time he walked back over to the corners, he pointed down to his left groin. So I don't know if it was a groin injury. Who've asked him after about Gentry.
Quad, who knows?
We don't know what it is, but it's certainly not looking at the shoulders, like you said.
Yeah. And
as
Brent
far as
says
that goes.
no interviews or no
updates.
Yeah.
Also no interviews.
Also no interviews. That's right. What I like about Cortland Guillory is the handful of times that he was in on a play or near a play. It was Bryce Underwood, referring back to what I was saying earlier. He's throwing the ball even though the guy's covered. Like, that guy is all over my dude, but that's where I have to go with the ball because everybody else is covered. He didn't have a choice. He was throwing it, and Guillory was like in the guy's face or had a hand over or was making contact with him at the arrival of the ball almost every time. I didn't see him get beat in pass coverage once.
No, he was fantastic, and what I loved about how well he played is he was always so explosive after the play, always celebrating, always a little fist pump, just so animated out there, which is what you want to see from your younger guys on the team, not taking it too far, not taunting, but just bringing that spark that, OU's defense was good last year, maybe not as much spark as we've seen in 2 games so far.
Yeah.
It's a really, really strong defensive effort, and I thought what really stood out to me that third quarter when you got into the couple of special team snafus, whatever, like we said, almost 3 a.m. And things kind of got hinky a little bit back and forth. The game tightened back up. Michigan was able to cut it to technically a 1-score game, stuff like that. Before Brent Venables got here, it was, how many times have Oklahoma fans gone into a game thinking, like, things are going to be fine for the defense until there's the one bad break, whether it's a turnover or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it's like mentally the entire group crumbles. Right. That did not happen. I thought that today, and I thought that last year was kind of the turning point as far as that mentality, things like that. But I thought today was like the crowning achievement of, they were able to just continue to roll back out there. They held them to field goals. And at the end of the day, Bryce Underwood, 9 for 24, 142 yards. Brent Venables moves to 22-5 in his defensive coordinator career against either a true freshman or redshirt freshman quarterback. And it was everything I think that Brent Venables wanted. I think that this is a repeatable blueprint from this defense, too. The offense that we're going to talk about, I think that offensive line is going to slowly get better throughout the year when we talk about the different pieces. The defense is now good enough to buy Oklahoma time.
Right.
That it's not going to cost them football games, wins and losses, while the offense works through some of their growing pains.
Brent called it self-inflicted issues, which we talked about on the special teams. And here a missed tackle, there a misfit, stuff like that. doesn't affect the team. It doesn't affect the defense. Like Ryan said, in the past it would avalanche. It was a little snowflake would land, something would happen, and here comes this avalanche, right? Wipes out the whole village. That's not happening 2 games in. Not happening with this team, with this particular defense. And there's a maturity up front on the defensive line. You can see those guys. I mean, even though the young guys, David Stone and Jaden Jackson and those guys, young guys, but they're playing with a maturity. And then you're seeing the linebackers with the chaos that's going on in front of on the front line. The linebackers are flying with reckless abandon, just all out speed, run fit. Make sure your run fit is correct, and then go 100 miles an hour. And the secondary has no reason, with that going on in front of them, has no reason to be anything but confident. And that's what we're seeing out of all 3 of those levels of that defense.
Stone was excellent tonight. He was the second highest graded player on the defense behind Owen Heineke, which great Owen Heineke story coming to the website Sunday afternoon, Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. Kip Lewis also up there, Jaden Jackson also up there. It was a really, really good showing from the defense, which gave the offense plenty of time to go through some ebbs and flows. Let's flip over to the other side of the ball. The offense goes out there, marches straight down the field. We started to see go all the way back to Dylan Gabriel when he talked about that third down is not impossible to convert. Well, it wasn't always perfect tonight, which is what happens when you play a good physical front seven. But in the end, Oklahoma finished 9 of 17 on third down conversions, and it started from the jump. Oklahoma gets backed up into a third down immediately, and who but Jaron Kanak, the linebacker converted to tight end from his offensive days back in high school. He was an impact player tonight. 5 catches for 69 yards. Nice, Jaron Kanak. I'm sure it's a great appreciation for that. Comes into the postgame with freaking Wolverine claws, because when you beat the Michigan Wolverines, that's what you do. That was just the start. Deion Burks had a hell of a night. He caught the opening touchdown, 101 yards on 7 catches for the Michigan product. John Mateer finishes 21 of 34 through the air for 1 score, 270 yards, one interception, 2 sacks, He also added 82 yards and 2 scores on the ground on 19 carries. Carson, just overall, we're going to dive into it from all the angles, but what was your thought of Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, and the offense tonight?
Well, I just liked the balance that they had between running the ball, passing the ball. Obviously, that trick play didn't work out, but I love the creativity on that, what would have been a great touchdown pass to Jaron Kanak. And it's just, if there were any questions about what this OU offense is capable of, I feel like most of those are squashed at this point. Sure, there are some running game things that need to be figured out still. That comes with having a bunch of new pieces on the offensive line, having some new running backs, stuff like that. But I mean, overall, Sooner fans shouldn't have a whole lot to complain about, considering what they did against one of the better defenses in Power 4 football.
One of the defenses is going to be on their schedule, just straight up, I
Yeah.
think. You mentioned the offensive line changes. 4 new starters today. You got Michael Fasusi back from, he was finally cleared from his kind of a medical episode. Heath Ozida, who was held out of the opener, he was back. Derek Simmons, who was held out of the opener, he was back. Not only those guys back, straight into the starting lineup. Fasusi, your freshman left tackle. And I think the best thing you can say about him is I didn't really notice him because he was good, I thought, all night long. The first time I really stared in at Fasusi was that first third down play to Jaron Kanak. TJ Guy up into space, and Fasusi just not quite the Tyler Guyton punch from Thursday Night Football, but he stoned TJ Guy. And I was like, all right, freshman's got something there. Also,
good.
Jake Michael takes over for Troy Everett at center, and so you go.
That's the one I didn't expect.
Yeah, well,
You're taking a starting job away from a captain.
Yeah, I had figured that Jake Michael was going to take over at some point in this game. I just didn't know if it was going to be from the jump there for Michael. He's just bigger, longer, stronger. It reminds me, I hate this for Troy Everett, but it reminds me of the Iowa State game a couple of years ago where Caden Green is just a better option at left guard. We were sitting there going, Everett, too small to play guard in this conference. Now he moves over to center. Everett, it's just a higher ceiling with Jake Michael and John. It was an impressive.
And he's a good fit for a Big Ten team like Michigan.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
The problem you have with Michael is some of those snaps were low. A lot of those snaps were low.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to get that cleaned up. You can't be having the ball firing back there where you don't know where it's going to land. But they'll fix that. They'll get that worked out. I wouldn't worry too much about that. The Michael Fasusi thing. Here's what I like about that. You said you didn't study him or zoom in on him. About maybe 12, 15 times I chose to randomly just, let's see what he does on this play. Not watch Mateer, not watch where the ball goes, just watched it left tackle. He never had one, in any of those times, 15, 16 times that I watched him, not one problem. Not one time did a guy get around him, bull rush him, get in front of him, swim move him. None of that stuff was working on him. The very first time, what was his name? The DN?
TJ
guy. He tried to bull rush him, and Fasusi took an extra step back and kind of absorbed it and then just held him up right there. Fasusi's something special, you guys. And what's interesting to me is a couple of times in the post-game interview, you can watch it on our website, go to my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media. Fasusi is like, I said, did the atmosphere, the week of preparation, the fact you're playing Michigan, did any of that get to you? Did it, was it exciting? Was it nerve-wracking? And he's like, the fans and the lights, and he's like, yeah, I didn't notice any of that. I never even thought about it, I say, well, okay, what about, if I'm Michigan, right, and I've got an offensive tackle in front of me who's a true freshman, I'm like trying to get in his head. I'm trying to like talk trash to him and, hey boy, hey little kid, hey high schooler, I'm coming after you, something. And he goes, I don't think I heard any trash talk. He is so laser focused on literally what he said, the man in front of him. And you can see in the way he plays. It's impressive.
Chelsea fan, winner's mentality. We know this. 3.4 yards per carry for Oklahoma on the ground. It's not like
4.2 in the fourth quarter when they needed it.
Yeah, I was going to say it wasn't perfect, wasn't super explosive. A 19-yarder by John Mateer, 10-yarder by Javante Barnes. Other than that, like not a ton of huge, massive gains. But here are the couple of things that I saw that I think really bode well for an offensive line that we never got to see them grow really last year until late in the year because it was different and all that stuff. But as long as this group stays healthy, you actually have a starting group you can grow with. The first Mateer touchdown on the goal line, I was pretty worried that Oklahoma was going to get to the goal line, and if they got too close and then they weren't going to be able to throw, I didn't know if they were going to be physical enough. They opened up a nice running lane for Mateer on the right side. Later on, he showed he could bounce it to the right side. And then, yeah, exactly what you skipped to. Not just the fact that Oklahoma was able to go on a 16-play, basically death march at the end. Like Michigan punted the ball with 12 minutes left. Basically, they didn't get the ball to the other side of the 2-minute warning.
Yep.
Here's the other thing, too. Fasusi had something, I don't know if it was a tape job that came loose or something like that, but Logan Howland had to go into the game for 9 of those snaps on that 16-play drive. Didn't slow anything down. Oklahoma was still able to go down there, bleed nearly 9 minutes of clock. Carson, what we're talking about, again, you have to grade on the curve a little bit because of the defense that they played.
Yeah.
But if this is the worst this offensive line is going to be, I think Oklahoma, that's an offensive line Bill Beebo says, guys you can win with. I think it's an offensive line you can win with. It's not going to be a Joe Moore group, but you can win with that group.
No, I thought it was very solid overall. I mean, not a perfect game on the ground by any stretch, but I felt like it was better than what we saw a week ago against Illinois State and against a much better defense than the Redbirds. I felt like Javante Barnes played a better game. Blaylock looked like he had a little bit of a spark, even though his average wasn't great. I still think he's going to be a good back. And I just love, it makes the offensive line's job a little bit easier that they are so versatile on the ground. Bunch of different backs, obviously Mateer's legs. They have the screen pass game. There's so many different ways they can pick up short yardage, get some of those methodical drives, in kind of those death march situations as you mentioned.
Yeah, Mateer, he's not going to carry the ball 19 yards. I think that's like the biggest thing that you could get is if Mateer's not the only option on the ground, because they got to a point where basically the massive 3rd and 3 to start the fourth quarter, I thought that was like, circle that bad boy. Whatever happens there is probably going to not maybe decide the football game. This may be a little bit dramatic, but I mean, if Oklahoma doesn't pick that 3rd and 3 up, suddenly it's 21-13, you're punting away, Michigan has life.
Yep.
And instead, John Mateer, full speed ahead, trucks through. Then he had picked up the 19 yards a little bit later. If the offensive line can make those steps forward, there are going to be even bigger running lanes for a Jaden Ott to be more involved, for a Torrey Blaylock to be more involved. And then you can get back to John Mateer, what he tried to talk about all offseason, which is let the guys who are built to take those hits take the hits, except for when you have to put on your big boy pants on 3rd down, on the 4th down, stuff like that. But this was a big boy football game. And, John, what I saw, Mateer is not, oh my gosh, these athletes at Michigan are too fast for me. Oh, no, Mateer was slippery. He was at times running through guys. Did he take his fair share of hits? Yeah, sure. But How's he going to handle that? He asked DeMarco Murray what his regimen was day after game to get better. But he was making guys miss. He was spinning out of rushers. If John Mateer doesn't want us to compare him to Baker Mayfield, he sure is making Baker Mayfield coded plays left, right, and center. Not as efficient as Baker, but to spin out on a third down, go to a scramble drill, and find Satania downfield. That's stuff that Baker Mayfield did that people ended up loving at Oklahoma for a long time.
The plays that he was making in the pass game were impressive enough. Right, that's what you want your quarterback to do, especially buying time and getting out of the pocket and patting the ball, and then throwing it on third down and converting. Is like, holy cow, that's pulling one out of your hat right there. I wrote in the story from Venable's big picture view of the game that's posting at 6 a.m. That Mateer was that Venables has a quarterback who is as tough as a winter on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I've been there now. I understand what the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is and how tough it can be, and that's how tough John Mateer is. He was taking some shots. You could tell when he walked into the press room. You walk in this door, and then you walk down about 5 or 6 stairs, and then you turn around and make a left turn to the podium. And he was like doing this, it's, kind of, it looked like me trying to get out of bed. Like, gotta get to the bathroom. He was looking stiff, he was looking sore, he was looking beat up, he was looking very tired, and he should be, because he took some shots. And he said, at some point in the press conference, some measure of, I took some really good hits out there, and you could tell it was wearing on him. But he just kept coming back at him. Now, you don't want 19 carries every game. No quarterback's going to survive that. But like Brent Venables said, we did what we had to do to win the game.
Wasn't perfect by any means, but first off, never be perfect at something like this. You had the interception. If you watch, I know this was floating around, but Brooks Austin, who covers Georgia for the On SI Network and also does a lot of film study. He did a really great breakdown of the Illinois State game, which shows, hey, John Mateer, when he usually misses, he misses high and to the right. Why? Because he's got kind of a baseball throwing motion, stuff like that. You saw that pop up. He missed high and to the right, basically, on the interception. He also had a couple where didn't get the ball to Satania in stride one time. That would have been should have been a good catch and run. Deion Burks would have been running for a touchdown, except it hit the Michigan helmet. I thought he also had
wide open.
The one-handed grab by Kanik on that first third down was a beautiful layered ball. He had put a little bit more air under it, stuff like that. He was able to create. He missed Kanik wide open, but then great job by Kanik on that third down. That was to start the fourth quarter. Because Kanik worked his way back into a pocket and was able to laser one in there. So while he may have missed him in the end zone, a ball that Kanik went back.
I love how he said he feels the open space. He knows how to get into that open space.
Yeah, Mateer said Kanik feels that open space. Yeah, it's one of those things, Carson, that we just kind of get back to it. This might be the most base level thing, but what was so fun about watching Baker Mayfield play is that he had that schoolyard feel about him of just, I'm a football player. I can win in the structure of an offense. I can win outside the structure of an offense. Through 2 games, John Mateer has that kind of quality of sometimes it looks like he's just drawn up in the dirt. Sometimes it's very, very calculated. But he plays winning football.
He does, and he looks like he's having fun out there. I thought he might be a little stiff making that transition to OU. I thought he'd be good. I didn't know he'd be this good immediately for the Sooners. Just the difference in competition playing against more or less a Mountain West schedule last year versus now playing Michigan in his second game at OU. It's a big jump, and it's one that Mateer seems to be handling very well, very comfortable out there, having a lot of fun doing so. And that's what gives me confidence that this is going to continue to work. Just how much animation, how much confidence that both he and Ben Arbuckle have. It's really impressive, and doing it against Michigan's defense again is just, it's crazy.
Well, not just Mateer, but Derek Simmons.
Yeah.
Go down the list.
Keontae
Lewis from Southern Illinois.
Grayson Miller.
From UCO.
From UCO.
Hunter.
Brent is throwing out these guys like every time he Owen Heineke, every time he gets a chance, he's reminding everybody, nobody thought anything of these guys. And they're making plays for the Oklahoma Sooners.
The Misfits. He's used that twice this week.
That's right, twice.
You talk about a guy like Torrey Blaylock, a guy like Michael Pizzusi making the step up from high school to Michigan. And you mentioned, Carson, that transition for John Mateer. We didn't know what it looked like this early. how about the transition from Ben Arbuckle? I thought that Ben Arbuckle was going to have a really, really tough task ahead of him tonight because I didn't think that Oklahoma was going to be able to run straight at Michigan, and to a certain extent, they weren't able to run straight at Michigan. And so you're taking Wink Martindale, who is the experienced NFL, college, all this experience against Ben Arbuckle, who's entering his 5th year of calling college ball plus 1 year of high school, knowing you're probably not going to have a traditional run game. What was that going to look like? Well, I thought that there were a couple different times late that Wink Martindale dialed up pressure, and Ben Arbuckle called the perfect screen to Javante Barnes into the teeth of the pressure. The perfect, hey, let's get Satania running. Like you mentioned with the trick play, of course, I thought it came at the right time. It was blown up a little bit, but it still should have been a touchdown if Mateer just takes the hit, I think, and steps into that throw and drives the ball to Jaron Kanek. And I thought, Hoove, that Arbuckle, it wasn't like masterpiece perfect, but I thought it was pretty damn good for an offensive coordinator. And if that's like, again, much like Mateer, if that's scratching the surface, much like this offensive line, if that scratches the surface, if this is scratching the surface of a Ben Arbuckle Oklahoma offense, that's an exciting prospect for the little amount of time he'll be in Norman. Because if he's calling games like this, he'll be a head coach very, very, very soon.
He'll be a head coach pretty soon, I would think. He's got whatever it is that comes out of the Texas Panhandle and West Texas. He's got that Lincoln Riley vibe. He's got that Graham Harrell vibe, that Mike Leach. It's just kind of it's a mindset. It's a call it a vibe or whatever you want. It's just a mentality that Mike Leach had that he got when he worked with Hal Mummy. And Mike was a coach at BYU under Lavelle Edwards. I mean, that's where he learned. I say coach, he was a water boy and stuff like that, but that's where he got his start. But it just comes down from this kind of loosey-goosey, hey man, it's cool, we'll come up with a solution, don't panic, we're going to be calm, we're going to execute, here's our game plan, let them try to keep up with us. And the guys who can do it are really good at it, and I think he's the next one. I think he's the next of that group of coaches and that coaching tree. I think Ben Arbuckle's the next big one.
2 games in, when this hire was made, I thought, on one hand, I totally understood that where he's coming from Ben Arbuckle, how exciting it's been, Cam Ward, what John Mateer did immediately, all that stuff. I also thought it was absolutely insane that going into a make-or-break year, Brent Venables was turning the keys over to a guy that's about to turn 30 here in a couple. I just thought that that part of it was insane. But when you look at what he's put together, and Carson, we talked about this last week, but a 12-play touchdown drive, a 10-play touchdown drive, a 5-play quick strike touchdown drive, an 11-play drive that ended in a missed field goal where Tate Sandell pushed it a little bit left, a 16-play drive that ran 8:27 off the clock that ended the game and ended in a field goal. And he did it last week with an offensive line that you had your third-string left tackle, all that stuff. I get it's just Illinois State, and this is a Michigan team, and it's a good Michigan team. I think Texas is better. I think you're going to see a better LSU team. We'll find out where everyone else, where the cream rises to the top the rest of the schedule. But I'm just as impressed as you can be 2 games into what Ben Arbuckle's done at Oklahoma so far.
100%. And I think there were some questions last week as far as, the running game didn't look good. Is he pulling all the tricks out of the hat at this point? Is this all that we're going to see? It's pretty vanilla. This answered all of those questions, or most of those questions, I feel like, as far as he is not vanilla at all. He can do pretty much everything. He can beat you with a couple of plays. He can beat you with 16 plays at the end of the game to win it, to seal things, and just very impressed with kind of this philosophy you guys were talking about with this newer age of coach, these high-flying offenses. Arbuckle's bringing that, which I know that's night and day from what this team had last year.
Yeah. Shoot, what was I going to say? Forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead.
It's late.
Well, it's just one of those things that, and I know that things were as bad as it could have got last year with offensive line injuries, stuff like that, but the creativity and just
the running backs.
And finding, here's the thing that we talked about time and time again in postgame after postgame last year, no easy throws for the quarterback.
Right.
No sense of, hey, maybe your tight ends aren't super equipped to block, so why are you putting Bauer Sharp one-on-one with Stewart from South Carolina. Like, that's putting them up to fail. I just don't remember any of these situations tonight, where Ben Arbuckle put his guys in a position to fail. Did it mean that they were perfect in every play? If you look at the success rate and all that stuff of every single play, is it going to grade out perfectly? No. It's week 2. There's plenty of room to grow. You don't want to peak in week 2 either, but...
I think we've talked about this in the last couple of weeks. When Lincoln was the play caller in 2015, there were times when, and it was early in the season, he figured it out against Texas, I believe. There were times that Bob Stoops had to remind him, hey, you've got Samaje Perine here. You've got, was it Joe Mixon? Was that his redshirt year that he set up? 15 was his redshirt year. So maybe I'm thinking of...
Well, the Houston game to start off 2016 is when they totally abandoned the run in the second half.
Okay.
And
yeah, and so, I remember one of the Oklahoma State games, Josh Heupel did the same thing with the run game. It called something like 13 consecutive passes. And, Bob goes in at halftime and says, we've got a running back. We've got some running backs back there. You can call running plays. And came out the second half, and the offense worked better. And, because the offensive coordinator gets kind of tunnel vision and thinks, hey, my quarterback is this and my quarterback can do that. Okay, fine. What about your offensive line? What about your tight ends? What about your running backs? And how can you get the quarterback maybe involved? Not Landry Jones, but how can you get the quarterback involved in the run game? I think Ben Arbuckle has figured out, okay, I've got a running quarterback. We can do that. We've got some other things we can do with these guys. Let's go ahead and throw the ball short. Let's go ahead and punch some holes in them a little bit deeper, some intermediate holes now in the passing game. And that opens everything up. And so he's got his whole playbook available. Instead of just, oh gosh, they're stacking the box. We have to, we can't run into a stacked box. He seems to have the ability to have some flexibility on both ends. If the box is light, let's go ahead and throw anyway, because we like this pass play. If the box is heavy, let's go ahead and run anyway. We like the blocking scheme that we've got dialed up for this particular. He doesn't seem all that influenced by 100% of what the defense is doing, like a lot of coaches.
10 of 18 on 3rd and 4th down for Oklahoma tonight.
That's pretty good.
1 of 1 on 4th down. And again, that is not necessarily indicative of, I thought on the last drive it was, but it wasn't always, hey, it's 3rd and 2 all night long. Like they had to get out of some 3rd and longs, and I thought that was really, really impressive. And I think, too, something I had asked John Mateer was, hey, because of where Ben Arbuckle comes from, where he learned his offense, it's a through line from Cliff Kingsbury to Zach Kitley. Like, he's going to always have the tag as an air raid guy, whether you look at the splits last year and Washington State ran the ball more than they threw the ball, all that stuff. But how impressive is it to have an air raid guy that can go out there and orchestrate a 16-play drive? It just took me back to, when Brent Venables was not just his opening press conference at the Everest Center where he's talking about the physical punishing, blah, 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 all the things. But also that spring when he would talk about, like, he wants to be able to not just attack through the air and all that stuff, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, Brent Venables will talk about, when everyone knows you want to run the football, can you still run the football? Never quite, I think, got there with Jeff Lebby just because of, I think, offensive line, stuff like that, but you got one of those drives tonight where Michigan knows you want to run the football, and it just flat out didn't matter. That was the drive. It started with the John Mateer big run, right? That was the longest run of the night. Like, that was the most obvious situation there, and I just came away incredibly impressed with everything Arbuckle did tonight.
Yeah, it was, we've said this so many times, but yes, very impressive by Arbuckle in just the different ways that he did it. Mateer using his legs, screen passes, some nice runs by the running backs, some deep shots. I mean, really everything was checked off that you could have wanted checked off tonight, even though they only scored 24 points.
Offensive line, I think, only going to get stronger as long as they stay healthy and have a chance to mesh together. You're talking about a true freshman. Hito Zaida, though he played all year last year, is still super young. Jake Michael making his first start at center for Oklahoma. The Becci, I thought, was rock solid.
Is the SEC going to present markedly better defenses than what we saw tonight?
I like good defenses, consistently physicality like this,
Yes.
yeah. I don't necessarily think that, like, there's a defense that you're going to see that's like night and day better than what they saw tonight.
I agree.
Which is obviously
Might be
great
better
news.
here or there. Might have some better players, more draft picks, all that stuff. But just in terms of way better than what we saw in Michigan tonight, I don't think so.
No,
Not way better, no.
in Michigan, the defense wasn't the issue last year. It
Right.
was the fact that they didn't have a quarterback, and they had a guy tonight that Oklahoma completely shut down and shunned. And you look at it too.
That's encouraging because they have had Oklahoma, historically speaking, has had a lot of young quarterbacks. I'm thinking to the Tennessee
Nico
Iamaleava, yeah. He didn't have a huge game, but he had a nice big game. Made about 4 or 5 plays in that game that kind of cooked Oklahoma's defense. Just historically speaking, recently at least, young quarterbacks, hot shot quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks that
big
were
recruits.
linebackers at Iowa State that turn around and have to play quarter. Like it hasn't quite mattered.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's true. There's some truth there too.
so that was a good sign there. And you look too. I truly think that whether it be Torrey Blaylock or Jay Knott, as the O-line gets better, they're going to get better. Giovanni Gibson, who might have been the happiest person all night long, he's still being fully suited out, but not playing. He'll come back. That'll be another weapon for Oklahoma. A guy that, by all accounts, was their best receiver in the spring. Hasn't even set on the field yet. If you're going to get this Deion Burks and this Satania and this Jaron Kanik, throw him in there. I think that's going to be good. The one wart tonight, the one major wart tonight was the special teams happenings. You look at the fact that Isaiah Satania muffs a punt, which set up Michigan for their first made field goal. Then Jaden Ott on the ensuing kickoff after that flubs it. That puts OU deep into their own territory. Because I thought, too, another thing about the offense is even when they did not score, something that just didn't happen last year, it wasn't immediate 3-and-out defense back on the field. They'd pick up a first down or two, give Grayson Miller some extra room to not be under like major duress to punt it out there, run 3 minutes off the clock, stuff like that. And that was one of those instances where they were unable to really do that because even picking up the one first down gave Michigan 2 of their best starting positions of the day, and it let them take. That was the one time they really got a nice deep shot down the field, that 30-yard pass play, I think, for Bryce Underwood, which I think was because they weren't terrified that he's having to drop back on his own 10-yard line or stuff like that. You had one missed field goal by Tate Sandell, pushed left, but he made the other one. Other than that, like it kind of wipes away what was unfortunately what should have been a great story of Grayson Miller, kind of the emergency punter after Jacob Ulrich is not punting tonight, and he boomed a 59-yarder. He averaged 47.8 yards per punt on 4 punts. That was really, really good. If you just don't have the special team snafus, the ref and the kicker like we talked about earlier, this game is not as close as it was on the scoreboard.
No, it's a blowout. I mean, they wouldn't have gotten that 3-point attempt, which was missed. But more germane to what's going on immediately, Oklahoma gets the ball back at midfield or less because they're punting from down in their goal line. If you don't rough the punter. Just a weird night for the special teams. The fumbled punt was just a brain fart by Satania. You're an experienced punt returner. You can't run up halfway to a ball and then bend over and try to catch it literally like a foot off the ground. That's like the worst.
Had another touch-and-go catch, too. Yeah, he had the muff, and then he had a very touch-and-go one where he, dives in.
Yes.
It's...
And I couldn't figure out what was going on with the Ott's kickoff return. It's like it fell straight out of the sky and hit him in the face mask or something. It was like, who catches a punt or a kickoff way up here? Misjudged it. I don't know. The wind wasn't blowing too bad, was it?
No, not really, no.
He was down on the field, so
No,
I don't know.
Pretty calm.
Yeah.
I think, with all that being said, that might be, obviously, besides Mateer's performance, the defense's performance, that might be the most encouraging thing. The fact that they still beat a Michigan team by multiple scores. This is a Michigan team that we might be talking about possible college football playoff team by the end. Who knows?
They're not that good.
They might not be, but it's the Big Ten.
They don't have any weapons at receiver.
They don't. The committee loves the Big Ten, though.
And
True.
freshman quarterback.
True.
If Indiana can make the playoff, maybe Michigan can too.
Yeah.
Point being, that's a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma played far from a perfect game, and they still won pretty comfortably. That's positive.
Plenty of room for improvement. I don't think that this may be the biggest win of the season, depending on how things go or stuff like that. If they play like they did for most of tonight, though, it's not going to be the biggest win of this season.
Yeah.
And I think the good news is this wasn't like the stars aligned and everything went right. Oklahoma had to overcome some hiccups, and they still were able to calm the waters. I think that's certainly a good sign. And something else, too, is they did it without Eli Bowen and Kendall Dolby coming through. And I didn't think much about Eli Bowen and Kendall Dolby tonight. Why? Because Cortland Guillory's really freaking good at football 2 games in, it looks like. Stuff like that.
Gentry.
Half a game without Gentry. That didn't pop up, but it wasn't a huge issue. So I think this is all really, really, really good signs. And I know it seemed like we've talked about this kind of off-camera stuff like that just taking the pulse of the fan base. I think that there was optimism, but I think that a lot of fans were saying, I need you to show me before we're all the way in, that kind of thing. Oklahoma's headed out to Temple next weekend. Should be a fun trip to Philly. Carson and I will be out there. I'm not expecting Oklahoma to really struggle with our friends the Owls, so they certainly look much better than last year's Temple team. But I think this is a fan base that's going to be full speed ahead. Excitement headed in toward Auburn, because I think that Oklahoma gave fans a lot of reason to be excited here tonight, what we saw.
No, they absolutely did. And I think it's just kind of, I like the way the schedule sets itself up with Temple. That should be a comfortable win, even if Temple is a lot better. Auburn looks pretty legit, though. I will give them that. Jackson Arnold looked really good against Baylor. I think that team's much improved. Then they get a bye, then they get Kent State, and then it's the gauntlet. But you just got to like how this sets up for that gauntlet, having 2 easier games, Auburn at home. That's just, I mean, OU fans just bluntly have to like where they're at right now.
We see that Temple took down Howard today.
Oh, boy.
Howard, I don't know his last name, Howard Schnellenberger?
Schnellenberger? I hope not. Kelly Gregg will tell you all about what happens
right.
when you replace the water with everything else with Howard Schnellenberger.
That's right. 55-7 was that game. Temple now 2-0 on the season. They're going to have their hands full with Oklahoma.
Yes.
That's my big prediction.
They're going to have their handfuls. Carson and I will be out at the Link next weekend in Philly. Cannot wait for that trip. Be sure you're following us along Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. If you go there, depending on when this pops up, all of our stuff, my takeaways right after the game, Hoove's stock report, Ryan Abers report card. Yes,
Who?
that Ryan Aber.
Who?
He is helping us out. Really pleased. It was a packed press box tonight, but he should be here for all the rest of the home games. Big thank you to Ryan Aber. Stoked to have him aboard helping us out through this football season.
The man.
If you know him, 19 years at the Oklahoma, an absolute legend, excellent. I told him that I was going to tell him once on Twitter, not the superior Ryan on the OU beat, just the other Ryan now for Mr. Aber. But depending on when you get this, we already had the PFF grades up there. You, John, are writing about Brent Venables and everything he had to say about what this does for the program. Mm-hmm. Carson writing about John Mateer, what he's doing on the ground. I wrote about that last drive, everything they had to say. We'll have, when the new poll comes out at 1 o'clock on Sunday, that'll be out there. Writing about Owen Heineke, his big day, that'll be out there on Sunday. Carson will have a story on all the recruits in the house. That's just our Sunday slate at Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. Before we wrap up shop, before we roll on into Temple Week, anything else that we missed maybe tonight from this contest other than just, again, another major shout-out? The fans made this a really fun week, really fun day on campus, and I spend a lot of time on campus on Saturdays with radio and all that stuff, and they certainly delivered a really fun game tonight, and Oklahoma, for the first time in a couple years, is able to truly match it with that big-time excitement.
One play that I want to mention, we mentioned how Satania kind of fumbled that kick. That was a bad play. Satania was a hero on a different play. I think it was
2
Burks.
plays, back to back.
Yeah, there was this one play. Burks goes for it, does not catch it. Should have been an easy pick, and Satania just levels the defensive back.
Great
for
DB,
Michigan.
yeah.
That was a huge play. That would have been a huge momentum shifter. Instead, it's incomplete. I don't remember if that was. I think it was a scoring drive. I think OU capped that off with a touchdown.
Because the next play was the Mateer escapes the blitz.
That's right.
He gets out and throws it down the sideline to Satania, who makes a great catch on the sideline, and they scored 3 or 4 plays later.
That was just one of the more mind-boggling plays. I didn't realize how big Satania was as far as breaking that up until I rolled back the footage. I got the highlight of that one, so check out the highlights. Shameless plug. But that was just an amazing play, and it could have been a 14-point swing in that game.
Yep, and that's the kind of playmaking that we talked about, the defense saving the offense saving the special teams, and it's just going around. I mean, guys are making plays all over the field. That didn't happen last year.
Right.
It was pretty impressive. I think there's a lot to be excited about for this season, a lot to be excited about for this football team coming out of this bad boy, and a lot to be excited about as we continue on into a big week as we head out to Philly. Hoove! Glad you were able to make it in, my guy. It was one of those nights that we were packed shoulder to shoulder in the press box, but like riding a bike for you, I hope, as we look over and just a lot of peering off each other's screens, a lot of, hey, what's this going? A lot of Hoove being like, can you just shut up so I can finish writing this sentence, please and thank you.
I don't do great in crowds anymore, but it was fun. I had Cliff Brunt here on my right, Ryan on my left. That's not a crowd.
Not bad, not bad.
That 3 is not a crowd.
Indeed. 24-13, Oklahoma notches another victory over Michigan. 2-0 all-time against the Wolverines and all of their national championships before 1950. Glad Michigan didn't even travel their
break
band.
it down? 10 of their 12.
Michigan is the
12
Rutgers of Blue
national
Bloods.
championships.
They're the Rutgers of Blue Bloods. Rutgers has all this crap on their stadium because they did it before people actually played college football. Michigan, 2 titles since 1950. One of them is shared. The other one set a record for show causes and coaches. They didn't even travel their band. Pathetic, by the way. If you have one of the best fight songs in sports, you better be in that band ever. Way more Tennessee fans here a year ago than Michigan fans. I hope they enjoyed their 3 years in the sun because they're headed back to just being the also-rans of Blue Bloods.
Not a believer in the Sharon Moore experience?
No, Sharon Moore sucks. As a head coach. What? He was he stumbled and bumbled. If it wasn't like Ryan Day being like a mental patient when he goes in to play Michigan, they would have had a so-so year a year ago. There would have been no momentum. They wouldn't have got to play Alabama in the bowl game. They finally got their quarterback.
Just beat the national champion, that's all.
Yeah, well, again.
A year after winning the national championship, they beat the national champ.
And
Guys doing something right.
Southern Illinois beat Notre Dame. Are we holding Southern Illinois? They made it to the national championship game. Is Southern Illinois this great pillar of everything? Sharon Moore. I don't think he's going to be at Michigan in 3 years because he'll get run out of town.
That's probably right.
Other than that, though, fun game. Good to have a big brand. There are a ton of Michigan fans all in Oklahoma City. I hope they all have a miserable trip back because they didn't bring their band. And that's on them, not the fans on the University. Also, terrible game notes, by the way. Figure it out before we go up there next year. Their media team, weak sauce for a blue blood. Other than that, though,
We're gotta apply for credentials for those guys next year.
up your game notes.
Up your
Up your game
It's
notes.
constructive.
They're terrible. Look around the country. Illinois had better game notes. Illinois State.
I'll probably spend a week up in Ann Arbor going into the game and then just kind of sneak in because we're not getting credentials.
I mean,
You can cover that one in my garage back in Broken Arrow.
I'm just saying. I mean, just do your job. Isn't that
the world
thing?
works.
The team, do your job. All that stuff. Otherwise, we are headed out here. That's how you know it is.
Forgive him, it's 3:20 in the morning.
It is 3:21 in the morning.
You've
Thank
been
you
here
to our
for
friends from Ann Arbor.
14 hours just on the grounds. You've been here for 14 hours?
Yeah, I got here I parked at 11:45.
Oh, so 16 hours. Okay. It's a pretty good day for you.
Long day. Otherwise, it'll be another long day next Saturday. Should be good. Next time we'll talk to you guys Wednesday, obviously, midweek pod. Be sure hitting the site. Monday night, we'll talk to a bunch of players. Tuesday, Ben Arbuckle, Brett Venables. You know the drill. We're kind of getting into the rhythm of the season here. So all that stuff should be good and as scheduled. But for Carson, for Hoove, this has been the Oklahoma Sooners on SI Podcast. We will talk to you on the podcast next Wednesday.